Hello guys, this is Siddharthan. If you are new here, this channel is all about machine learning and artificial intelligence stuff. In the previous video, we have discussed what is meant by machine learning and what are the different types of machine learning that includes supervised learning, unsupervised learning and reinforcement learning. In this video, I'll explain you what is meant by supervised learning and what are the different types of supervised learning. Okay, so this is the agenda for today's video and I want this channel to be more interactive. So from now on, I will give a link for each video in the description, and in that link you will find a Google form containing MCQs for that particular topic. For example, so in the description of this video, you will find a Google form link that contains MCQ on the topic supervised learning. Okay, so once you complete watching these videos, you can try to answer those MCQs. Okay, so let's get started. Supervised learning. So, supervised learning is a type of machine learning in which the machine learning algorithm learns from the labeled dataset. Okay, so here the most important thing to note here is the algorithm learns from the labeled data. Okay, so what is this labeled data? So, in machine learning, generally we feed the machine learning algorithm a lot of data and we tell the algorithm that this data represents this label. Okay, and the algorithm tries to map the labels and the data so that it can recognize it. Okay, let's try to understand this more deeply with an example. So we want our machine learning model to see an image and recognize whether it represents an apple or a mango. Okay, so this is the task for our machine learning algorithm. So in the case of supervised learning, what we will do is we will feed the images of apples and mangoes, and we will tell the machines that these images represents apples and these images represents mangoes. Okay, and we feed these images to our ML model, and what it does, it tries to find the relationship between these images and it maps it to the label, which is apples and mangoes. Okay, now it knows how a apple looks and how a mango looks. Okay, so once it learned from the data, when you give an unknown image, it can predict correctly whether it is an apple or a mango. So this is how supervised learning works. So the important point to note here is we are training the machine learning model with data which is labeled. Okay, so in case of unsupervised learning, we don't give the machine learning algorithm the labels. Okay, so that is the difference between supervised and unsupervised learning. Okay, now let's discuss about the types of supervised learning. There are two main types of supervised learning. One is classification and another one is regression. Okay, so what is meant by this classification and regression? So classification is about predicting a class or discrete value. Okay, so there is just these class or labels. Okay, so there is not continuous values like numbers. So it will predict whether the problem statement, we have to predict whether it's a male or female, true or false, like that. Okay, so there will only be classes. And in regression, we try to predict a continuous values. For example, like the salary, age and price. Okay, say for example, we need to predict salary of a person from his work experience. Okay, so the salary will be in a continuous number, right? So those kinds of problem statements are done using regression models. Okay, in classification we just predict it's whether true or false or male or female. Say for example, the example we have seen before, where our model classifies the images into apples or mangoes, whereas in regression we find a particular number. Okay, so let's try to understand this with another example. So first of all, classification. So we want our machine learning model to see an image and recognize whether the image is, a dog or cat. So what we will do is we will give the labels and the data to our machine learning model. So it maps with that label and the images. Now it can tell whether it is a dog or cat. So this represents classification because we are just classifying the image into either dog or cat. Okay, so there is no middle values, right? So there is not any decimal values here. It is just binary in this case. Now let's discuss about an example for regression. Let's say that we need to predict the rainfall in centimeter value for a given temperature or pressure and different factors on which the rainfall depends. Okay, so what we will do is we will train our machine learning model with this data. Like for example, so we will tell the machine learning model that for this temperature there will be this much amount of rainfall, and for different cases like this. And when the model is learned from the data, when we give a new temperature value, it can tell you how much rainfall we can expect. So the rainfall in centimeter will be a continuous value, it can be a decimal value, right? So this is called as regression. So in classification we try to predict the class or type but in regression we try to predict or we try to find a number. Okay, so that is the difference between classification and regression. So there are a various lot of different types of application on classification and regression, so which we will see in our later videos, in our project videos. Okay, now let's see what are some most important algorithms for classification and regression. Decision tree classification, random forest classification, k nearest neighbor classification. So these are some examples of classification algorithms, and regression model algorithms includes logistic regression, polynomial regression, and support vector machine regression. So it's okay if you don't understand what is meant by these algorithms. So we will be working on each type of algorithms once we start doing the hands-on part. So I'll be explaining about them in more detail once we start those videos. Okay, so that's it for this video. In the next video, let's discuss about what is unsupervised learning and what are its types, as we did in this video. Okay, so that's it from my side. Do check out the Google Forms link in the description and try to answer those questions. So if you like the video, if you enjoy the video, do subscribe and stay tuned for future videos. Thanks for watching.